Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my own personal top 5 most carried EDC folding knives over the last month or so. This has changed completely. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I am super excited to carry, and it's been excessively difficult to choose a knife day in and day out. But I'm going to share with you guys what I've been carrying. Everything that I have here to show you today will be linked in the description. You guys can check out those links if you want to. It does help my channel. If you use those links before you buy something, but that's up to you. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. Let's start off here with an obvious one. The knife in the thumbnail. Of course, guys. My own design, the Metal Complex and Kunwu Excalibur, went immediately into my pocket once I finally received the final production version. Now, real quick, because I know people are going to ask, is this available? Yes, it's available for pre-order right now. That is the only way that we have planned for you to actually pick this knife up. So if you want to pick this up, you'll need to actually pre-order it. We've kept the pre-orders open for as long as possible, but we're actually nearing capacity. These will be shipped right around Christmas of 2024. So that's when you can expect to, get your notification. Then, of course, it'll take a bit to get to you. But we have right and left-handed versions. We've got DLC, non-DLC, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you go to the link and check it out. But I know you guys are like, this is cheating. You're like promoting your own. It is legitimately one of my top 5 most carried knives. Now, it's on the bottom of the list because I've only had it for like 5 days. Inevitably, and you guys could guess, this is going to dominate my pocket. I designed this knife to be my own personal ultimate knife. It won't be the ultimate knife for everybody, but it is the ultimate knife for me. That was the whole idea behind Excalibur and the over a year-long project that took place before this could exist. So, yeah, this has been dominating my pocket, and it will quickly climb the list. I have a feeling it'll be in the #1 spot next month. And, it's going to be kind of difficult, probably moving forward, if that ends up being the case, and it is just always in my pocket, then I'll probably continue to do this series and exclude Excalibur from it, because after a while, it's like, we get it. You're going to carry the knife that you consider to be the ultimate knife all the time, right? But I am a knife reviewer. So that's probably the fairest way to do it, is just to, if it climbs the ranks and it's like constantly dominating my pockets, then I'll probably exclude it and talk about the other stuff that I've been enjoying carrying. But this has really been a joy, and it is heavy, it is bulky. This guy comes in at I think it's a little over 6 ounces. The balance from the blade stock increase was definitely a good idea. Like, it was really meaningful and beneficial. About 5.9 ounces. So we moved the balance with the blade stock being slightly thicker than on the V3 prototype. We moved the balance from here right about to the middle of the like where you're going to actually be holding it. Sorry, I'm trying to get the actual. Let's keep wants to go forward and backwards. That really helped out. So this has become much easier to just wield in general. The blade is so slicey. I love it. The shiny DLC is definitely a magnet for fingerprints and whatever you're cutting. Vanax obviously holding up well. Everybody knows Vanax is going to perform really, really well. It's just nice to not have to baby this with the frame being made entirely of titanium and the blade being made of Vanax, which is one of the most corrosion resistant compositions out there. It's just really been a joy to finally have this thing here and in my pocket. Everything has stayed perfectly solid. The action just keeps getting smoother and smoother. The thumb studs are staying in place. This is a dream come true. So while it is the #5 on my list, I expect it to be #1 very, very quickly. Moving on here to #4, the #4 spot, and we're actually bringing back the the Microtech Ramlock Stitch. Why? Because I have freshly installed beautiful aluminum original goat scales with the gun stock texturing. So this was dominating my pocket for a long time when I first got it. And then, it kind of slowly ended up back in the case, and a lot of other knives that came in. As a reviewer, you're handling a lot of stuff, right? So as much as I love the Ramlock Stitch, It was destined to eventually get put back in the case until, and I knew this day would come, until Original Goat released some scales for it. You probably just saw me mod this, so you know if you watch my channel, every single upload that comes out, the modification video for this was probably right before this video. So you're thinking it's the number 4 on your list. You've only had it for like 10 seconds. That video was recorded quite a ways back. So I've actually had this for a bit, and I have really enjoyed this. It's everything that I've loved about my Stitch. And the original scales were aluminum, so really the weight didn't change. It's just the appearance and the texturing has made this, it's just refreshed it for me. I love how this looks. I cannot wait for Original Goat to create titanium scales for this knife, which I will absolutely get in the same texture pattern here, but it has that Terminator look. You guys know that I love my monochromatic silver Terminator knives. I've always loved that. I've always loved the diamond texturing. This is kind of the aesthetic that I always imagined for the Stitch, and I love its unique aesthetic. I love the big, heavy forward choil and the sort of arrowhead blade shape with the nice thumb notch. It's just really cool. I can finally enjoy the Stitch in the aesthetic that I've always wanted. So these scales are amazing. They are 100% American made. I don't know what the availability is on them right now, but you probably are familiar with the Original Goat because I talk about them all the time. They make some of the highest quality aftermarket scales that I've ever experienced. I love their texture patterns. I love how well they fit knives. I have modified so many knives with Original Goat scales. I cannot recommend them enough. And we all knew that they were gonna start doing stuff for the Stitch. I think this is amazing. They don't just work with aluminum and titanium either. They work with a lot of different materials. Something that I find really confusing is why we don't see more anodizing from Original Goat, you know, whether it's Type 3 hard coat anodizing with aluminum or anodizing on titanium just to get some different colors. It's also confusing that we don't see that from Microtech. I mean, I thought for sure by now we would see some red or blue aluminum scales from Microtech. They seem to do that with pretty much everything else, probably coming down the road. But in the meantime, if you want something silver like this, Original Goat, that's the way to go. This has been awesome. Moving on here to the ones that have really been in my pocket the most. It's really between these three. Number 3 is the Knife Tyro. I was so excited for the next Snex Super Lock, and I'm really excited to say that this is a good knife. It is definitely compact and it's on the shorter side. It's thick enough to where it doesn't feel like a tiny dainty knife. It also doesn't feel like a knife that's too thick for the size. There's a couple of awkward things here. Number one, the handle length is a little bit too short for this butt end to be wrapped up like this, because it kind of leaves my pinky going, where am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be on top of this? It just doesn't feel like I'm not sure if I'm supposed to put 3 fingers within here and the pinky on top. It just doesn't feel super natural. So I felt like that supernatural is the wrong word. It doesn't feel very natural, but it's not uncomfortable. I want to point that out. It's still plenty comfortable because of the heavy chamfering right here. I wish that they had shaved this down and just made it straight, but truthfully, what I've realized that I really want, and what a lot of you will realize you want, and you probably don't even have to handle it in order to say the same thing as me. Let's say it all together. Make a bigger one. I think plenty of people will enjoy this size. It's a great EDC size, definitely. And this does work, right? If you want my honest opinion on this before I do the review, which is coming, it's good, right? And the price is also good. It's a less expensive knife for a Wii knife at like $219, $229, something like that. On the less expensive end for a Wii knife, not for knives in general. For a Wii knife, they tend to be upper 200s, low 300s, sometimes 350, right? So this is good. The Super Lock is awesome, being ambidextrous and definitely very, very strong. I like it. I think it's good, right? I think I hold these, these Snex knives to such a high standard, and I really just, I want this to be perfect for me. So it's not, what I want's not going to be what everybody wants, but I think if they had done an 8-inch version of this or so, it just would have been spectacular. But really, this part at the back, just having that shaved off so that it's not confining, not that it's terribly confining, right? Nothing like, the Demco 8010 or the Cold Steel 8010 or anything like that. but it's, I think it would be nice to have that shaved down. This area right here, when I go to thumb flick it, it's pretty good for a thumb flick. It's a little bit awkward to reverse flick it, but you can do it, right? So it's there. You can also just use the super lock itself. This has been a real joy to carry, and I have very much enjoyed it. I don't think that it's going to stay in my top 5. I think, right now, because I'm reviewing it, I'm reaching for it a lot, and it's really, really fun. I don't think that it's going to be a permanent addition, so it's not going to rise through the ranks. So just to let you know. But yeah, it is neat, right? Moving on here to number 2. Wow, this is a serious one. So I'm going to tell you, the reason I'm not sure if you've even seen me unbox the stealth version of the Demco Shark Cub. Right, so my content might be a little out of order, which happens sometimes because everything is pre-recorded and scheduled. But if you didn't know, the Demco Shark Cub is now my absolute favorite compact, lightweight EDC knife. I also prefer it over the 20.5, and I consider the 20.5 to be one of the very best EDC folding knives of all time. I cannot stress enough how good the Shark Cub is. It takes everything that I have always assumed or disliked about small, compact EDC knives, and it tosses it out the window. This thing is so comfortable. A full grip, choked back, choked up. They have made such perfect use of every last inch of this. It feels safe. It feels secure. Deploying it feels deliberate and snappy. It feels comfortable. I don't have to go out of my way or readjust my hands to get it to deploy the way that I want. It's ambidextrous. The locking system itself is one of the strongest on the market, completely and totally solid. I love the Shark Cub. It is amazing. They come in 3 different blades, your clip point, your shark's foot, and your slicer grind, which I'm quickly enjoying the slicer grind the best, I think, because it's kind of a combination of both. This stealth version is a true DLC. The scales are aluminum. I love this sort of reverse tux combo. I'm putting it up here because I'm counting all of the days I spent with the standard Shark Cub, which was the same thing except G10 and 20 CV, and it also had a shark's foot blade, so a different blade shape, but it was essentially the same knife. So I'm cheating a little bit and combining my time with the standard G10 Shark Cub and this guy. But this has really dominated my pockets. I got to tell you, when I am just headed out the door, it's time for me to go. I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I don't want to think about it. I just want to know that the knife in my pocket is going to be able to do essentially anything that I ask of it. This is the knife I'm reaching for. There have been a few knives in the past that have really fit that role for me. My Para 3 was one of them for sure, and my 20.5 was also one of them. There are a lot of really, really good EDC knives that I reach for, but ones that I feel like I could depend on permanently in legitimately every situation. This is one of the knives that I keep in my bedside EDC case. It's one of the knives that's right there so that I can put it in my pocket right when I wake up in the morning. I love the Shark Cub so much, and I don't think it matters if you get the inexpensive. I think they're running a sale. They've got them as low as $70 right now, or you get one of the more premium ones like this for about $230. Whatever you choose, I think that this is one of the best compact EDC knives ever. It is so good. It is such an unbelievably fantastic EDC knife. I do expect this one to stay very high on my list for a while. This is now my permanent travel knife as well. Given the length of the blade, it makes it very, very legal in most, if not all states. You have to check on that, check your local laws. But yeah, the Shark Cub is just insanely good. They took a base design, something that was already an instant evergreen, instant legend status, and they made it better. I just cannot believe. I want them to essentially take the Shark Cub profile and replace the 20.5 and even the 20 with it. I think this is a superior profile, both in terms of blade and handle. It's just better. So yeah, this is one of my favorite knives of all time. I cannot recommend this knife enough. It is insanely good. You should definitely add it to your rotation and or collection. And then finally, the one that I've carried the most, and it's because I've been so curious about this composition. This is the Spyderco Sage 5. But it's not the Sage 5 that we're talking about today, or that I want to talk about today. It's the blade steel. This is CPM Rex 121. And while there are materials like tungsten carbide and terravantium, or dendritic cobalt, and ceramic and all that, when it comes to steel, because people always have to point out, yes, there are materials out there that can cut the same or longer, and they all have their own pros and cons, right? Don't want to discuss that today. That's not new information for most people. When it comes to steel, Rex 121 boasts the highest potential edge retention. This, of course, requires the geometry and the heat treat to be ideal or nearly ideal in order to make the most out of the composition. Historically, we've had essentially nothing that has been able to create these necessary pillars for Rex 121 until now, right? Spyderco, a company that is known very, very well for having incredible cutting geometry and heat treating blades to their maximum potential. They have decided to tackle Rex 121, right? Many people especially in the shorts community, no surprise there. Many people have pointed out Spyderco knives are really fragile at the tip. They'll snap, and you combine that with really thin cutting geometry or blade geometry and a brittle steel like Rex 121, and it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, it is. But it's not like Spyderco went, whoops, we accidentally took one of the hardest potential compositions, Rex 121 at 70 to 71 HRC. Oops, we put it on a really thin blade with, a really thin tip. Whoops-a-daisy, how clumsy of us. We accidentally did, oh gosh, what will the community think of us? All those, those ragtag super macho guys, Brian and screwing with their knives. What will they think? Oh God, no. They did this on purpose. They made a cutting machine. They wanted to flex and say, we can do this with Rex 121. We can push this to its potential, or its maximum potential. Is this going to be ideal for everyone? No. Is Rex 121 the absolute best EDC steel of all time? No. Is it perfect for anything? No. Are you even going to see its maximum potential in normal EDC parameters? No. It's, for the most part, just an insane flex. If you are cutting and you're cutting light materials continuously, you do a lot of that throughout the day, this is going to hold an edge forever. It's not going to be fun to resharpen. Definitely not. But my curiosity with it was not what does it take to dull it? Because in my usage as a regular Joe, I'm not a professional of anything. I don't put these things through crazy paces or do any controlled testing, or I don't do any of that on this channel. I'm a design reviewer, right? My thing was, how likely is it to chip in a standard setting? Somebody like me, I'm actually a great example, a great test example for something like Rex 121, because a lot of people are afraid of it. It's so brittle. Like, a lot of people know, like, yeah, obviously we're not going to screw and pry with it. Like, if you're gonna do that, right, you just get a cheap knife, right? I mean, better yet, like, learn which tools do which jobs. Knives cut, right, which is really hard for some people to understand. But yeah, knives cut, pry bars pry, screwdrivers screw, right? But if you need your knife to be all of that stuff, just get some cheap, thick fixed blade. There you go, right? Problem solved. But for people who are curious about picking up a Sage 5 in Rex 121 or future Spydercos, your biggest question is probably, this stuff is really expensive. Is it going to chip on me during normal use, right? So I've carried this quite a bit. I haven't put any insane battle damage on it, but I've definitely been cutting stuff. Cutting open boxes and packages, and even periodically having the blade run into the plastic containers within those packages. This was not enough to do anything to the edge. In fact, I'll demonstrate. I have not stropped it or altered this. Just slicing a piece of paper. There are no nicks or rolls or anything in its edge. It's fine. It's still extremely sharp. Some other things that I've done with it, believe it or not, I have sharpened a few lead pencils with this. That was not enough to do anything to the edge. My son is constantly, can you sharpen this pencil? Can you sharpen this? He's always drawing and doing homework and stuff like that. And I think we lose a lot of pencils, so he's constantly asking me, and he doesn't have a pencil sharpener because he lost that too. And I'm always happy to sharpen his pencil with my knife, right? So not that lead is something that's going to damage a blade readily, but I did sharpen lead pencil a few times with this. No issue. I also, and I thought for sure this would do it, I also cut some plastic ties with this. Not the ones with the metal core, but just some plastic zip ties, some pretty thin ones, right? Just getting toys out of packages and stuff for my kids. And I thought for sure that I'd see some edge damage. No. So far, and I don't want to give this like false, I don't want to make this out to be something that it isn't, because understand, regardless of how amazing the edge retention is, this is a super weak steel when it comes. I mean, that's part of the trade-off, right? It's not tough at all. So you're really, on a knife like this, I mean, this is not supposed to be a hard use tool. This is supposed to be like, I never want to sharpen my knife in my entire life. I don't use it that often. I just cut open packages here or there. I just want to have a knife that I am certain that will be sharp essentially forever, cutting open just normal standard stuff. Then yeah, for almost specifically those people, this will be perfect. It'll be a really expensive option, but it'll do that, and you essentially won't have to sharpen it. Maybe you sharpen it once, maybe twice in your life. It just depends on how often you use it, right? But so far it hasn't dulled. If you actually do manage to sharpen it, it'll probably perform even better the next time, because the initial edge, especially with a lot of Spyderco stuff, it doesn't have, like, you have to sharpen away that first edge to get the true performance out of your knife, right? So if you actually do get to a point where you're not chipping it, not having to reprofile it, and you sharpen it up, the second time around it should be even better. So far Rex 121 is doing better than I thought. Do I expect to eventually chip it or nick it in some way, even during my light use? Absolutely. I do not trust Rex 121 at all. There's no way, man. Eventually, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to run it into a staple. And that's the drawback, because if you do that, oh my God, what a nightmare to resharpen this. This stuff is crazy. So far, not bad though. I don't think it's quite as scary as a lot of people think, but regular use, no matter how light of a user you are, I think Rex 121 is ultimately, it's just doomed to be a chip magnet. So we'll see. But I plan on continuing to use and carry this a lot. I'm also not really trying to like oil it or anything. I want to see how stain resistant. I know it's not a stainless steel, but I want to see how well it does. And so far it's fine, right? But I haven't been using it in water or anything like that. It's just a really interesting, this was always a mythical steel, right? It was always that steel that we heard about. We never saw anything in. Rex 121, I've heard of that, but I've never found a knife that's actually made in Rex 121, right? So now we can actually get it. So given that Spyderco is going to continue to work with this stuff, I thought it was really important to actually take a look at it and experience it a little bit for myself. This will ultimately be a giveaway knife, but for the time being, it's going to stay with me. So expect to see this one on the list again. So anyways, in the number one spot, we have the Spyderco Sage 5 in Rex 121. Then we have, of course, the Demco Shark Cub, this particular one, the Stealth Edition. We have the new Knife Tyro with the Sneck Super Lock. We have the Microtech Ramlock Stitch with the original goat aluminum gun stock scales. And of course, my own design, the Metal Complex and Kunwu Excalibur. That's going to be it today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This is always fun for me to do. Let me know what your most carried knives are, whether it's your top 5, your top 10, or if you have one knife, whatever it is, what are your favorite knives to carry? I always love hearing that. These will be linked down in the description. That's going to be it today. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.